The last opening question I'd like us to wrestle with is the question of when and where. When was the book of Ecclesiastes written, and where was it written? And the reason we're facing both of these questions together is they are interrelated. So if you take the author as being Solomon, the date is probably 971 to 931 BCE. That's just an estimation, right? Whenever we talk about ancient historical figures, we get approximate numbers for when their lifespans are, and we try to place it in that type of thing. If Solomon didn't write the letter, or the book, sorry, which is the more likely scenario in my opinion, probably 450 to 250 BCE, which is, I know, a very large time frame. So what's the differences about these two eras? Well, one, if it's Solomon writing it, then you have the perspective of a king speaking to us commoners about the meaning of life. A little patronizing. Or if it's 450 to 250 BCE, it might have been written during the Assyrian conquest. So when Assyria took over the northern kingdom, all that stuff, it may have happened around then, which if you look for the social impact, when society's in turmoil, writings like this are produced that help and try to stabilize the ship, right? Try to get people through it. I've been curious, watching in recent years the political and civil unrest around the world, what types of things are produced out of that? Art, writings, reflections, all those types of things. It's possible that Ecclesiastes is the product of one of those things. A likely place that it would have been written is Jerusalem. Okay, these are things we don't know the answer to. The date, the exact environment, and normally we want to know those with as much certainty as we can, because it helps in that interpretive process. But in Ecclesiastes, I'm not sure that really bears out that it is that big of a deal if we don't know the where and the when. The reason for that is because Ecclesiastes, being a philosophical book in nature, is more concerned with those vast, broad topics that transcend a momentary time. Okay? So we don't have the argument like at the beginning of the Gospels, who was the governor, who was the emperor at the time, all those things. That's not so much the question, because Ecclesiastes is really concerned with the here and now. That being the case, I want you to reflect on and be thinking about how the here and now affects how you listen to Scripture. Because it does. I know Christians like to pull out that Scripture text from Hebrews, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. One of the problems in that is they essentially exchange Jesus Christ for Scripture by implying that the same thing happens to Scripture. Scripture doesn't mean the same thing always and forever. Scripture is open to interpretation, it's open to understanding. And those things happen in regards to where we come from in life and the current situation we live in. So at the beginning of this series, I spoke about the loss of a loved one prompted me to read the book of Ecclesiastes. I have returned to the book of Ecclesiastes again and again and again, even though I haven't had a close person die. I return to it because it speaks in other ways, depending on the situation that I am currently in. So I want you to take time to examine your current life situation. Where are you living? What is the situation you're in? Are you living with a loved one? Or are you living on your own? Are you retired? Are you working? So on and so forth. Everything. List those things out in a journal or on a sheet of paper. Because those are the things that you bring to the interpretive process. And the more you understand about yourself in that interpretive process, the more you know when and where you are, the more helpful interpreting something from another time will be.